Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Frank and Candid for today, Friday, 24th July 2020. It's a lovely Friday, as per usual, and I don't think I need to remind my audience that every day is a blessed day. For many persons, it will be their very last day, just as yesterday was and just as tomorrow shall be. So we ought to occupy ourselves as productively, as fruitfully, and as humbly as possible every day, including today. I am hoping and wishing that today, Friday, would be an excellent one for all of you, and that it will be characterized by service to Christ, service to Almighty God, more than any other. And of course, how does one demonstrate or manifest service to God? By being kind and compassionate to our fellow men and by caring for the earth. How do we care for the earth? We refuse to litter. We refuse to waste precious resources such as water. We care for the land. We take care of the animals. I believe that this is our bounden duty. This is why we are in fact on earth. I want to hope that today, Friday, would be one in which we exercise that purpose for living. I also want to hope that you have a very productive, relaxing, and refreshing weekend coming up. We know that we would have experienced a slight earthquake yesterday. We know that we are in the midst of a corona disease spreading virus, and we also know that we are in hurricane season. I think all these factors come together, they combine, as it were, to oblige us to turn to Jesus Christ, to depend even more fully on Almighty God and His mercies and blessings for our survival. And so I want to hope that today be the beginning of a new era in the lives of all of us tuned into, not only all of us tuned into ZIZ Frank and Candid session today, but in fact to all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, in the diaspora and throughout the world. What a beautiful world it would be if we were to begin collectively to embrace the teachings of Jesus Christ. That is my view. And of course, if in order for it to be done collectively, it has to be done individually. And so I am expressing the hope that that obtains in reality, more so than just being confined to a thought or a wish. Today we are going to continue. I don't think we're going to conclude, because the question of the Men's Council, any issues involving men, I think it's perennial, I think it's critical, and so we are going to continue that discussion today. We might not hear from him again for the next couple of days, but that is to say the President, but we will certainly be continuing the discussion from time to time. Just give me a second, please. Yes, okay. Yeah, that's better, thank you. So I have with me again His Eminence, the President of the St. Kitts National Men's Council, Melvin Agard. Some of you might know him as Rasguda, or something to that effect. Before we ask him to make his opening remarks, and then we ask him one or two questions, and then we invite you to call in. I'd like to remind the folks in K-On, when I resumed the hosting of this program late last week, we were expecting the acting water engineer, or chief engineer in the water department, to come in and discuss matters involving water, or the lack of it, in the K-On area. To this day, we have not been able to contact him, despite numerous messages and calls, in order for him to honor that commitment to come and discuss. But we are hearing that work is in fact ongoing in terms of attempts to rectify the water issues in that area, which I recall have been existing for quite a long time. St. Kitts had we had a very small, less than mild, if you wish, earthquake yesterday, measuring about 3 on the open end Richter scale. My question always is St. Kitts prepared for a serious earthquake? I won't even say massive. But is St. Kitts and Nevis, is our federation prepared for an earthquake? We're going to discuss that sometime later when we have NEMA representatives here with us sometime next week, hopefully, or the following week. But and the following week will be a short week. It's Monday and Tuesday being public holidays, August Monday and Culturama Day. And by the way, is it going to be a holiday this year since there's no Culturama? That's interesting. We'll have to find that out. But it's a serious question. Are we prepared for earthquake? An earthquake? Do Kittitians, adults, young people, children, do we know what to do? Do we know how to do it? Do we know where to go? Do we know how to get there if an earthquake strikes? And especially if it strikes on a Friday afternoon when Bastille is crowded with workers and shoppers and people just lying in, as we say, in the city center. And we're not even talking about if it generates a tsunami, if the earthquake is strong enough to generate a tsunami. We're just talking about an earthquake, and hopefully it is not followed by one. Do people know what to do? We will discuss that, like I said, another issue involving our safety, because we don't want to be so taken up with COVID or with any other singular disease or issue, whether it be social, health, economic, educational. We don't want to be so engrossed and occupied by that one single event or occurrence that we forget about preparation for others, which are always present and threatening. So, and of course we invite you to share your thoughts on what our protocol should be with that, in that scenario, with that respect, in that respect. Okay, so we have Mr. Egad. Mr. Egad, you want to make an opening statement?
Yeah, I give thanks again for the invitation, and as you said quite clearly, there's a whole lot to discuss in regards to not only the men's council and what they're doing, but men in general in the country. So I'm really thankful to have this opportunity to have these discussions.
Have you done any research? Do you happen to know what percentage of the population consists of men? That is to say, males, because all males, if they're not men already, they will eventually become men, because we start off by being children, boys, and then we go into adult men. So, do you have any idea what the breakdown in terms of that demographic is? Do we?
Well, I don't have anything with me right now, but some years back, I was trying to get some information from the stats department there to have such a program even like this, but I was not successful in getting that information.
Now, that should not be very difficult to obtain. According to the last, what I do know is that according to the last census, thank you, right? Thank you. According to the last census, there were slightly more females than males. When I was growing up, I remember hearing that we have almost twice and 3 times as many
that was not
females as males. That is far from the truth.
Yeah.
And by the way, the science tells us that more males are conceived, but more males die during spontaneous abortion, and so more girls are born. So, by some natural or unnatural process, although more males are conceived during the act of reproduction, more of them die via spontaneous abortions, and so more females end up populating the earth. Be that as it may, what we do know is that hold on again. Is that males constitute a significant portion of our population, and some would say we exercise power and authority far above that which is concomitant with our portion of the population. In other words, we might represent a little under 50% of the population. We exercise maybe 75-80% of the levers of power and influence in the country. So, with that in mind, the question was, you've already explained last time you were here, what the Men's Council is all about and why men should join. Before we get into the so-called meat of the matter, in the manner of speaking, you had promised to let the audience know, for those men who might have been interested in becoming part of the council, if not necessarily actively attending meetings every week, they'd like to know how to support the council. And so we were to advise them as to when the next meeting is going to be. Could you do that now? And we'll do it again at the end, so as to ensure that they remember, for those who would switch on between now and the end of the program. When is the next session? How is it going to be run? And how do men get involved?
Right, so we have decided, after trying to get the venue sorted out, that we're going to keep it digital, we're going to keep it online, so we're going to have our next meeting on the Zoom platform. We'll be sending that information out on WhatsApp, on Facebook, so men who are interested, you could always just go to the Facebook page, just search for the St. Kitts National Men Council, or search for Livingston Huggins. Either one, you'll be able to get some information there about connecting on Zoom. We also even want to go as far as to continue not just meeting, but even to have Zoom meditation, which is something new. And I've been involved in one already, and it's really, really good and eye-opening. So we encourage all men to log on and be a part of the discussion. We will also be putting up the topics that we're going to be dealing with on the particular days that we'll be having those Zoom meetings.
So when is this next Zoom meeting planned for?
The next Zoom meeting is planned for next Wednesday coming, what the date is that is?
Wednesday coming is going to be the 30th.
Right, 30th.
No, the 29th.
29th?
29th.
Right, 29th of July.
Of July.
You're right. So that'll be the next Zoom meeting. We'll try to meet up at least by 6:30. By that time, everyone should be home and ready to log on.
Good. In which case, you can provide me with the relevant information by Wednesday, and I can share it with the audience for those who may wish to link in and link on later that evening.
Right.
All right. So, gentlemen, those of you in attention, those of you in audience, in attendance, and in audience, please pay attention. The Men's Council will have its next session next Wednesday, 29th July at about 6 o'clock. I'll provide you with the link to be able to attend the meeting via Zoom, a virtual meeting as it were, and you can hear your views, make your comments, and let it be known that you would like to see the Men's Council involved in such and such activities. This is how you intend to support it, the things you'd like to see it get involved in, especially now, during a time of COVID, during a time of hurricane, during a time of uncertainty generally. And we'll be glad to have your input. We're going to share this information with you again at the end of today's session, but last time you were reminded that you can contact the President himself at 665-9758, 665-9758. The other number that was provided, 665-5948, the individual is currently off island, so you might wish to stick for the moment with calling 665-9758 in order to know more, learn more about St. Kitts National Men's Council. Very well. Now, last time we discussed a number of issues. We spoke about why we think the Men's Council is necessary and is needed, why men should join the council. You spoke of some of the achievements, some of the record, as it were, of the council since its birth in November 2016. It's going to be 4 years old later this year. In the same month, by the way, the Men's Council was born in November, and all of us know that International Men's Day is also celebrated in November. International Men's Day, of course, is a United Nations-driven activity, just as International Literacy Day, just as International Women's Day, World Food Day, and so on. So it's a universally recognized and celebrated occasion, International Men's Day, and it so happened that the St. Kitts National Men's Council was born during that said month. So we don't know what the situation will be like with COVID at that time, and that is so significant that COVID is making it impossible for us to make definite plans, not just us as the Men's Council, but the country, the world generally. But depending on the situation, I'm sure the Men's Council will be having activities adequate to celebrate that occasion, its 4th anniversary. All right. So, we wanted to discuss what are some of the men's issues that you see present in society today. And you might not even want to limit them to St. Kitts, because after all, St. Kitts does not exist in a vacuum. St. Kitts is one of the smallest islands in the world, one of the smallest countries in the world, also one of the smallest islands. But I believe that the issues that affect men everywhere affect men in St. Kitts, and the issues that affect men in St. Kitts affect men everywhere. Of course, given the fact that we have our own peculiar identity, we have our own unique culture, there might be some behaviors, there might be some issues that impact us more so than anywhere else, including right next door in Antigua or Montserrat, because this is St. Kitts, and St. Kitts, like every other place on earth, has its own special peculiarities. So what are some of them we might want to talk about, and how and why are men's issues different from women's issues? And then we want to see if we can find what are some of the critical issues facing men today. These questions are not necessarily synonymous or identical, because some of the issues that demand urgent and immediate attention might not necessarily be unique to St. Kitts. So, up to you, over to you.
Right.
Take your time.
So what are some of these unique issues facing men, worldwide, St. Kitts, wherever? Well, one of the number one things we always hear about is prostate issues, prostate enlargement and cancer and so on. So we know that is definitely unique to men, as women don't have a prostate setup designed in their body like men. You have fatherhood also is a unique issue, manhood is a unique issue, the alpha male effect also a unique issue, and even the development of the young ones in terms of some studies. There was a study done, I think in 2013 in the UK, where they conclude that young girls actually have better brain connections at an early age than males, so therefore young girls actually mature much quicker than young boys. And if you look around society, you could see it. I mean, most of the time when people get together, you find that a young girl would always have a older boy, older than her, as her boyfriend, because that's like the match up. The maturity level would have to be an older man, older boy, however name you want to call them. And so
that the males, the boys, as it were, achieve that level of maturity at a later age.
At a later age.
By which time, even though they're 4 or 5 years older than the girl, they are on par in terms of levels of maturity.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Understood.
So that has been concluded by scientific research. Even though this is something that we used to just say on our own, just looking at the dynamics in the society, that the women always have an older man to be their husband or boyfriends, and so on. So we see that the development issue for young men, I don't know how or what is the real reason why the women have that connection going faster than men in the earlier stages. I guess the scientific research will actually bring out more information on that later on.
Yeah, but we can also recognize that some of these things are just God-given. That I saw the Creator in his matchless wisdom decided that it would be.
Yes.
That's my conclusion at times, because science cannot provide answers to a lot of things.
That is true. But this is one of the unique features with men. We develop a little bit slower. That is not to say that we are slower in an overall sense. We develop a little bit slower in the younger age. Then we have fatherhood. And most persons, even one caller from the last time I was here, who spoke about getting back to the faith, getting back to biblical orders and so on, this seem to have a lot of connection to do with how fatherhood is expected to be in the society. And we have here some scriptures sometimes even speak to that, where they say, fathers, provoke not your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instructions of the Most High. We also have one that says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Even though we see some men trying to duck that and always try to tell the women they have to be basically subservient to them, and not saying the scripture to say, well, they are to love their wives as Christ loved the church. So it need balance. Now, manhood is something else, because I guess each society in their own culture would have the different definition or ways to identify what they consider manhood to be. But in essence, maybe into one of the dictionary meaning, it probably is just a man, a male taking on a mature role as a man. So, but manhood, sometimes you'll see in society, people will actually define manhood more on how you behave in society. And then sometimes this now cause some effects where, in order for a man to prove his manhood, sometimes he go out and start to do things that might be dangerous to him, dangerous to other people, just to prove his manhood.
So manhood is more of a social phenomenon, a social construct, than a factor of biology.
Right.
All right.
So we see that. So, but back to the prostate issues. We had a lecture by Dr. Wilkinson, and I think that was the main topic. I don't know if you remember that, Blake. And
sure.
Right. But one of the takeaway was for men is to exercise and eat a good diet. I mean, we have a predominant Christian base here in the sense of our population, yet the people just seem to don't want to do anything what the scripture say. They want to eat as they like, even though the scripture give a diet plan, give a menu of what you could eat, not necessarily what you should eat, but what you can eat. And the people just don't want to follow that. They just want to eat as they like. Exercise. There was some mention somewhere, I can't quote that particular text, but there was a text saying something similar, that the human body should exercise at least 3 days per week. And we have a lot of men who put more into their work and maybe other things and don't exercise. We see, for instance, like football is the biggest thing here. And when a footballer stop playing football, that seemed to be it. He don't continue to exercise, you start seeing some belly weight and so on. We see the bus drivers, a whole lot of them. I don't know, I'm not knocking the bus drivers, so if the bus drivers have this program on now, but a lot of bus drivers don't get no time to exercise, so this belly weight start coming on. And then we have the alcohol also. So men, you have to take care of yourself, you have to exercise, you have to eat a good diet that would actually go a long way in sense of keeping you healthy. So I just mentioned that in the area of prostate, because these are the recommendations, that you exercise and you eat a healthy diet. And St. Kitts is known for a name way back, we call the land of fertile soil. And I think that if we eat organic produce, and this would probably go on into conversations about our local food and so on, you eat organic produce, you exercise as frequently as possible, I think we would see a healthier society of men.
Okay, so your argument is that one of the major issues affecting men has to do with health.
Right.
And particularly as it relates to issues affecting the prostate.
Mm-hmm.
You're also contending that men have an issue with respect to exercise. There isn't enough exercise. And personally, I have heard the former chief medical officer almost continually lament that we have too high a percentage of obese and overweight adults in St. Kitts and Nevis, in St. Kitts in particular. And that too many of our adult men and women are weighing more than they ought, given their age and height, and that too many men are suffering from particularly abdominal obesity. That is to say, a lot of fat surrounding, visceral fat surrounding their waistline, their stomach area. And it is not a healthy sight, it is not a healthy position to be in. And a lot of us ask ourselves, why are so many men, as soon as they enter a certain age bracket, they begin to develop this protruding stomach, to the point where some of them, for years, as they look down, they cannot see their private. As one fellow actually told the magistrate one time, he said, I haven't seen my person in years. Okay? And then the question of diet. So these are issues, health issues, that affect men. How do you propose that men attack, deal with, control, manage these health issues? What do you recommend practically? Not just theory now. What can men do?
Well, we have to get together because we need motivation, and being by yourself, that would not cut it. You might jump on your treadmill one morning and that's basically it. But if we come together, like for instance, joining the Men Council, and we have set out a particular day every week that we exercise and especially focus on that prostate area. Because there are some exercises that can be done to keep the prostate a little bit more healthy than it is currently. Have a better flow of oxygen in that area. So I would, and this is practical. This is as practical as, if these men would just join up with the Zoom meeting, give the commitment and so on, and we will set out a day. We could go on a pasture and do that social distancing and, exercise once a week.
Physical distancing, please.
Right.
Yeah.
Physical distancing, social distancing. I don't even know which one.
Personally, I do not use the term social distancing, except I know what I mean when I refer to social distancing. I think what we're practicing and being advised to practice really is physical distancing, and not social distancing. Now, I think you need to emphasize, I don't think we did that last time, that the Men's Council really has nothing to do with politics or religion.
Right.
That politics and religion influence the Men's Council less than 0.0000000%.
Right, and I'm glad you raised that, because in the Men Council we have people of different faith, and there's never a clash. So
it has never been and never will be.
Nothing to do with religion, and in terms of politics, that has never come up. I've never even heard anyone in the council at any point express anything to do with their political affiliation. Right,
and that's important as well, like you said, because we know how pervasive and the divisive politics and religion can be.
Right.
Let's take this caller. Okay. All right. I think I prefer that the callers wait until the lines are open before they attempt, because we want to give, when we have a guest, we want to give him time to make his contribution before we open the lines. So we're going to open the lines in a minute or two. Now, you spoke of men as fathers. That's another issue. Now, I want to know whether you agree with me that there's a difference between fatherhood and parenthood. There's a difference between a man being a father and being a parent. We have lots of men who, because they are biologically virile, because they are biologically able, they can father children.
Right.
But to go beyond mere fatherhood, and some say you can become a father in 6 minutes. It takes 6 minutes to impregnate a woman. But to go beyond mere fatherhood, some men boast of having 10 and 12 and 15 children. Becoming parent, actually getting involved in their children's lives. The lines are now open, ladies and gentlemen. So you can call in at 465-2555, and Mr. Agard will be glad to entertain your input. Alright, let us know what you think about this issue or any other issue really, but we'd like to focus for the time being on the matters being raised by the President of the Men's Council. 465-2555. The lines are now open, you're welcome to call. So, I think that that needs to be emphasized. That,
yes.
And I don't know how we're going to get to change that culture, because some argue that sex is such a powerful drive, just as powerful. Yes, we have a caller. Good morning, sir. Hello.
Oh, good morning.
Yes.
Seems to got a delay.
Yes.
A big delay.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe the phone system working properly.
All right, we'll work on that.
Anyway, sometimes I can't get in a call, I get in now kind of voicemail. No, I want to say.
Sorry about that.
I want to say this. I believe black people and a lot of people nowadays, men, do not have the kind of discipline to be a parent. The part of what you said here, they just go have sex with a woman. They may have time with her, but some of the women them just the same. Because some of them like to know they got a child for man who got 10 children. I don't know what good they find in that. But when you have children and you can't spend time with them, and by the way, I believe in most of the time, you have a father and mother living together, especially married people. The children got a better chance of understanding and appreciating what parenting is all about. Nobody perfect. No couple, perfect. But you get better result out of that kind of situation. Mind you, I know people who grow up, never see a father, but they become good citizens. Very good citizens.
Hey, listen, let me interrupt you there for a minute. Let me support you there 100%. All right? That children of married parents tend to behave better, produce better than those of unmarried parents. I've been a teacher all my life. I've worked in education in schools all my working life. And I'm saying to you that throughout my experience in every school that I've taught, 99%, maybe not so much, but up to 90% of the students who come, especially those who are recidivists, those who always come for misbehavior in discipline, are children of unmarried parents. So you're correct.
Okay, and it's getting worse. Because some fellas, even some people you think would have settled down and look at life in the proper angle. They jump in here and there and get children all around and don't even want to get married and so. Who you thought? Because where they came from, they would have gone in that direction. You see, we passed a law here back in the 80s where you got some merit, but you got a lot of dismerit too. Because we are keeping with the Bible teaching. People supposed to marry and get children. The Bible even said that if a man gets a child outside he wedlock, they're supposed to despise the child, the family. But now the law says in St. Kitts and Nevis, 1980, I believe, family laws, that once you get a child, anyway, all the children equal. And all the children supposed to get taught. Let's say if the man make a will and make a will, all the children are equal. Even them inside with your wife and them outside. They'll say all of that there. That's something need to be debated. The men's council could do that. You take up that and see. Because you got a lot of dismerits in it. Because for instance,
demerits.
Let me say one last thing. I think I might not have enough time to say what I got to say. When I used to go to school, I never seen a teacher, a female teacher, pregnant and not married. Yes, somebody, they may say I'm out on mission, whatever, but the fact of the matter is, nowadays you got a lot of young female teachers, trial after trial after trial, they ain't married. What they could teach, what could they teach a young girl, a young boy who coming into teenage about decency and morality, as far as I'm concerned, and I can't do what the Bible says. So you see again, and United Nations help to wash down marriages. And when they make people, when they grant rights to people to call gay people to marry, and the Bible talk against that, the Bible destroys Sodom and Gomorrah because of that, but now we glorifying that, and giving them all kind of rights, and so that's nonsense. So all these things washing down marriage, and sadly the children are coming up afterwards. I don't know how they're going to combat it. I don't know how they're going to fit in, because by that time I done gone. So anyway, you have a good, I think you're making a good effort. But like I said, I can reiterate, I would like to see the men's council have a debate. Even though the situation what it is with the coronavirus, the person who come in the studio and they could talk about the same thing about family law.
Yeah, all children.
I think there are a lot of people who they don't even know we have something called family law. Somebody attempted to debate some of that long time, but they went so far around the world that they never get nowhere. A certain lawyer. But you got the people here who are conversant with it, and that is something I believe should be brought to the public.
Very well.
Yes. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Right.
All right. Okay, the question of whether all children should be treated equal under the law, whether they're born within or without marriage. I think that's what he's asking at the Men's Council attempt to organize. Okay. Right. I like the point that he made with respect to too many unmarried female teachers, young or not. They seem to lack what we call in education moral agency or moral purpose. And the the question as to what kind of model, what kind of example they're setting, what kind of pattern they are presenting to students if year after year or in quick time they are producing, because children outside of wedlock, this is the same thing we tend to tell our youngsters, that they must delay that kind of sexual gratification until they're at a certain age, and delay parenthood until they are married and so on. And yet we are finding that our actions don't always and often actually contradict our advice. But you were at a point where you were talking about, carry on from where you were.
I actually don't remember the point.
Okay, we were, yeah, we have another caller, but yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome
As
to
you say,
Candid. That's what
the
we should
leaders,
take
the leaders themselves are not married. Look at the majority of them. So where you going to get the leadership from? If they're leading and they're not married.
Yeah. Hello.
Person got disconnected.
Okay. He's back. All right, we have another caller.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Blake. How are you, sir?
Not bad at all.
I love the program that you have there.
Thank you.
I listened from the beginning, and the gentleman who was there with you. Now, talking about the COVID-19, we're talking about earthquakes. Now, if you look at Matthew chapter 24, Christ himself explained these things that were going to happen. We blame government, but government cannot do anything about it because of this disobedience of men. Because of disobedience of the human race. Now, the problem concerning about the women, that their brain, that they were faster than men. We look back in the Garden of Eden, there's where it began. We have to look at things at the practical and moral way. And when you talk about children growing up in a marital home, the problem that we have in our world today, we have to blame our judiciary system, because you find many of those who said upholding the law. What Jesus said? Whom the law joined together, let not man put asunder. Those laws still remain, and this is one of the reasons why God is going to judge the world. As I asked about one Sunday, tell me one of the reasons why God has had to judge the first world. I said one of the reasons, because they were living polygamous life. Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in his coming. And that's the problem we have today. That is what I have to say to you this morning, and God bless you, and
thank you.
keep up the good works.
Thank you. Although I think he started off by saying that we shouldn't blame government for COVID and for disasters, I don't think anybody in his or her right mind would blame government for anything like that. Even though in the United States, some people are attempting to blame President Trump for not for causing COVID, but for his response and handling of it. Because after all, disasters and diseases occur irrespective of the best efforts of governments and others and state agencies to combat them. So I don't think anybody in Kitts, by any stretch of the imagination, is blaming any government for the onset of COVID or for the visit of any disasters. That is not happening. Right. Back to you, sir. We were talking about fathers and parenthood.
Right. Actually, the other area that I wanted to touch was the alpha male effect. I think we had exhausted the parenting and father.
No, we hadn't, because we were talking about whether the difference between being a father and being a parent, and we had not begun to delve into it in any detail when the call started coming in, right, which we welcome. So I wanted to get from you, what is your view with respect to the difference between fatherhood and parenthood, and what is your call to men with respect to, of course, I was making the point that it is very easy biologically for a man to impregnate a woman, but to go beyond that and actually take responsibility for the child. What is your view on that, as from either from your own personal perspective or from that of the Men's Council?
The point you made earlier when you were actually opening up that area, you was asking if I would agree, and I totally agree, that fatherhood and parenting, well, not fathering a child and parenting is two totally different concepts. And I guess the father in a child would just be based on biology, but parenting or fatherhood in itself have to do with raising that child. And that would even go back to most of what the callers them would even talk about, that You really need to raise the child based on teaching them morals from very young, and most of these principles will be based on biblical concepts. So the parenting itself takes a lot of work, while fathering a child, as you say, can happen in 6 minutes. So there's really a big difference between them both, and as you say, some men boast about their fathering children, but in terms, you wouldn't hear much boasting about parenting the children. So definitely there's a difference. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, because I thought when you raised this, your fatherhood as one of the critical issues facing men, you actually meant parenting. Mm-hmm. And I would like to suggest that one of the major factors that contribute to indiscipline in society, to waywardness, to disrespect for authority, for lack of knowledge of our history and traditions and so on, is poor parenting. I want to argue that poor parenting is the crux. It is the fulcrum around which a lot of social ills and problems evolve and revolve. My argument is that it is poor parenting that is largely responsible, more than any other factor, for the difficulties that societies experience. We have a caller. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Blake.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you.
Okay, sir. And your guest here, good morning.
Yeah, blessed King.
Right. Now, I have a question. Who could answer this? Now, when God created man, He gave us eyes, ears, nose, mouth, with tongue and lip, hands and foot. He gave us vagina and penis, and He gave us what we call bum. Now, some people just say that they are with a pastor, minister, bishop, prophetess, or whatever they call them.
Yeah, they have all kind of names these days.
Right. Now, when the Bible say, in the Bible, when God say, be fruitful and multiply, what that mean? Multiplication mean increase in numbers.
Definitely.
Right. Fruitful mean produce what He make you. That it mean make children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you meet a woman, some woman does be this way, and even man too. They have a way to say, you ask them and say, well, you ain't married. They say, no, I'm married to Jesus. And likewise, the man will say, oh, I am not studying a woman. Jesus is my wife. What do you think about that? Do you think that is blaspheming? My way, do you think it is right for them to say that Jesus is a man and the husband and all of this? Jesus ain't in that level with us. Jesus is the supreme being, way above. And you find the things that people will use to prevent bringing children in the world is no way. Those kind of things could be around Jesus. So what do you think about them kind of suggestions or answers what do they give people? I listen up here.
Okay. As I was saying, I will leave this debate now.
Yeah.
But personally, I don't like it. I don't subscribe to it. I'm not married myself. And I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. But in no way in my wildest dreams would I ever make a statement like that. I don't think it's correct. I don't think it's a well thought out answer. I don't think that in any way one could be even spiritually married to Jesus or married to the Christ. I think that if an individual wishes to be abstinent, if he wishes to take a vow of celibacy, then that's his prerogative. But to say he or she is married to Jesus, I think, I don't know if it amounts to blasphemy, but I think it's in poor taste, and I think it's an incorrect analogy or an incorrect statement to make. That is my view. Of course, there are pastors, there are other Christians who would totally disagree, because there are, in fact, many of them who do say that. I've heard it myself on numerous occasions. So that's my response. I don't think it's a correct statement to make. And personally, I really don't like to hear it. It's a statement I would discourage others from making. All right, but certainly, we have been advised to be fruitful and multiply, and we need to be reminded, and a lot of us are guilty of disobeying that order, but we have to be fruitful and multiply within a certain context, within the context of marriage. Okay, back to you, Mr. President.
Okay, so the concept of poor parenting, as you were talking about earlier, and what we're seeing in society.
It's not just a concept, it's a practice, it's a reality.
Like talking about delinquent children and so on, and what a lot of the ills that we see in society.
Yeah, we have delinquent children because we have delinquent parents.
Right. Now, one of the things is, and this is where it get kind of tricky, because if we say parenting, we have to understand that we are talking about a mother and a father. But in our society, when you use the word parenting, it seems to only address the mother.
That's not in my view.
You know, and you find, like, even going to, you've been in the school system for a while, so you'll know this fact. When there's a parents-teachers meeting call, you normally used to have at least like 1% male present at those meetings.
You might as well call it a mother's teachers meeting.
Right. So parenting, we have an next one. Parenting seem to be a little bit off balance for how we see it in society, and the men need to take charge and let that be a part of their thing to do as well, equally with the women.
Let's take this caller. Good morning.
Right, so
carry on.
So I think that need fixing in itself, and you know, as we have more discussions pertaining to men and what men should be doing, and I think the last time here we started out even talking about men and spirituality and so on, that being a very complex definition in itself, you know, because I'm sure we're going to even get more callers talking.
Let's take this caller before we lose him. We've lost one or two already. Let's take this caller. Hello, welcome to Frank and Candid. We are speaking frankly and candidly about men's issues.
Yes, okay, Mr. Blake, I call back again. Something that the first caller he make a statement there, and he was so right. My friend from Challenges, because you have 3 people involved. Where Abraham, he was given a promise by God, and he went on to become disobedient to God because his wife encouraged him to go and get child with Hagar. But then the promise was made to tell him his only son, and Abraham was thinking about Ishmael. God tell him his only son, which is Isaac. So you find there's a difference, when it comes on God, there's a difference between all children belongs to him, but there's a difference between those who are born in wedlock and those who are born out of wedlock. Read your Bible and find it. They're right there. They're scriptural. So the government could twist the word of God to suit people. Because all these we don't have to give an account to God for. Okay, I wish you all the best. God bless.
Okay, thank you. The argument is that the Bible establishes the difference between children born within and without wedlock. That's his argument.
And I want to say this because I'm happy to hear that men are calling in and talking about the Bible say, and scriptures say, and so on, because a lot of what the Bible say and scripture say in relation to men, we're not upholding it. And I just wish that the men would read their portion as to what they're supposed to do and not just use it just to criticize other people.
Let's take this other caller. Sorry to interrupt you. Hello?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, my name is Sheikh.
Good morning, the blessed.
Yes, good morning.
Mr. Blake, good morning. You hearing me?
Very well, of course. Carry on.
Yes. All right. Good to hear you, and it's good to know that you're on ZIZ. Listen, I heard you made a comment yesterday, and I feel that the program, Frank and Candid, should be longer. You have some interesting topics. However, I want to remark in that I love this topic. Fathers haven't done what they should do. And I'll give you this note.
Sure.
I once heard a school teacher saying, a female, that in her class, she doesn't do anything for Father's Day. She does for Mother's Day. Because regrettably, many children don't know who their father is for whatever reason. And then too, many of them don't see the father figure around. So in order to have everything comfortable, so that children who in the class and may have that kind of thing with not knowing who their father is and father not around, may not feel out of place.
Okay.
But when you do it for mothers, everybody knows that they have a mother. This is what I do. I see children that I'm not familiar with, and in order not to get in trouble, I quickly ask them, who is your mother? And when they say Jane, Mary, Sue, then I probably could add who their father might be. But we ask, who is their mother? And that gives a smooth way. However, advocate that the program, Frank and Candid, be much longer.
Okay.
And then to the spiritual part of it, you and I would know, I am hearing some things which really don't matter. For example, when the Lord told Abraham, thine only son, when we go down to things and what have you spiritually, and we put the things in context, we will understand why. Anyway, have a good day and a pleasant weekend to you too.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. We have another caller. Come right in, sir.
Hi, good day. Good program as usual.
Thank you.
Yes. There's something I want to say. There are fathers out there, right, who try to play a vital role in their children's life,
No question about that.
but sometimes are obstructed by law enforcement and child protection or social services department are not, to my point of view, are not doing enough to ensure that our society does not break down because of the lack of the father's involvement in their children's life.
I support that too.
Even when evidence is being produced so that the matters are dealt with in an appropriate manner, you don't reach anywhere. And I'm speaking from my personal experience.
Yes, sir.
I mean, when you compare the way that we handle these matters to the way that the U.S. Deal with these matters, the U.S. Does not make any joke when it comes to the protection and the well-being of children. And I know, apart from myself, there are other fathers out there who are willing to lay down their life for their children, and because of the involvement of law enforcement that does not handle these matters in the way that they ought to, the children suffer, and then our society and everybody on a whole
Pays the price.
Yeah. Yes, I said I would just call and because it's a very timely topic. It's you know.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we appreciate that, and certainly, I agree with the individual. One of the critical issues facing men is that of legal injustices, because the law is very woman-centered, very female-leaning, and very, well, to some extent, anti-male. And sometimes we ask ourselves, was it really males who devised those laws? I mean, were these laws really passed and approved by men? Because in some instances, they are clearly biased against men. And when you read some of them have since been repealed, fortunately, but when you read some of these laws, you can't believe that they're actually on the books. We read here and there, if the law really supposed some of these things, then the law is a donkey, because they really seem to be asinine, some of these laws, especially as they relate to men. So I really think that one of the critical issues facing men is that of how the laws are construed and constructed, and very much sometimes against their welfare and against not in their favor at all. You wanted to talk about some kind of factor you raised earlier? We will have just about 5 minutes more to talk about.
Well, I want to comment on this area here.
Sure.
Because the thing is, I agree that the law seems to be woman-centered, but at the same time, we clearly see that men are not playing their role into the whole parenting issue. As we even mentioned just now about the parents-teachers meeting, men hardly ever show up for these things.
Definitely,
And
that's true.
the fathers, their story, of course, a lot of children really either don't know their fathers or the fathers just don't come around. So we can't act like it is equal in terms of how the men behave when it comes in regard to parenting their children. So if the law is leaning more to protect the woman, I really have no problem with that. What men need to do is step up the game, because men are the ones who actually put those laws in place for whatever reason. I know some of them might have been for even their own benefit, because we know at the hospital, you fathers at one point couldn't put their name on the child birth certificate unless they have a marriage certificate or something like that. I don't know if that was something for the elite or the politicians who would go around and impregnate other women outside marriage and making sure that their name don't go on the paper. I don't know. But whatever the reason is, we have those situations, I must say had, because I think now men could actually get their names on the birth certificate.
For quite some time now.
Right? So we have those situations, but men are not playing their role. That is quite clear. So we can't pretend that men are playing their roles. Therefore, we need to adjust the laws to make it clear. We know. I don't agree with sometimes that if a mother died, for instance, and that they would be looking for the child to be raised by the aunt or the grandmother or something like that. You hardly ever find a situation where they say, well, let the father raise the child. And you hardly even find fathers even stepping up to try to raise the child. And so until these things become, balanced, where the man is willing to raise his child, I think the law needs to just remain as it is.
Yeah, but when I in particular speak about legal injustices against men, where the justice system is weighed against men, I'm speaking about those men who are desirous of contributing and really make the effort to be a part of the children's lives. I'm not talking about those wayward, irresponsible, delinquent men, and there are far too many of them. Right? And if you read any of my books, I've written 2 books, and if you read any of them, I have spoken against that issue. Right? And I have ascribed blame to where it belongs. And a lot of men, too many men, are irresponsible fathers. They're not parents at all. But we're talking about those men who, in spite of the fact that they're not married to the mother of the children, they want to be a part of the children's lives, but the law does not, in many cases, encourage that. Let's continue.
Okay.
You wanted to make a point about a third point? About some alpha factor or something
well,
like that?
I don't think we're going to have the time for that,
All
because
right, so
that would be a long discussion.
Okay, so what we're going to do then is remind the audience that for the men who wish to be a part of the Men's Council or to learn more about it, the Men's Council is having a Zoom meeting next Wednesday, the 29th, and by next Wednesday morning on this session, Frank and Candid, I will be sharing with you the necessary details as to how to link up and be a part of that discussion. Right. In the meantime, you may wish to speak with the president himself, and his number is
665-9758.
665-9758, and I'm sure he'll be glad to give you as much information as possible. And when he does come this way again, hopefully he'll be able to report that as a result of these 2 sessions we've had with him here on Frank and Candid, the Men's Council has seen an increase in the number of men expressing support for it, if not actually becoming members of the body. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this week's editions of Frank and Candid. I thoroughly appreciate your involvement via your calls and comments. I look forward to doing it again next week. Have a great weekend. Blessings.
Well, it's just about 12 o'clock in the studios of ZIZ Radio. You have been listening to Frank and Candid. Well, stay tuned for the Midday News. And the Midday News is sponsored